The morning sunlight slipped through the lace curtains, falling gently on the small room. Emma adjusted the vase on the table and turned toward the old man in the wheelchair. "Good morning, Mr. Bennet," she said softly. He blinked, a faint smile forming. "You're early again." "I like mornings," she replied. "The air feels kinder." Emma worked as a caregiver in this quiet countryside home. She had been here for only 3 months, but each day felt familiar, almost peaceful. Mr. Bennet, once a respected architect, now lived in silence after a stroke. He spoke little but listened deeply. She began preparing his breakfast: toast, scrambled eggs, tea, not too hot. She moved with quiet precision. The kettle's whistle broke the stillness, followed by the faint hum of birds outside. "Do you like this song?" she asked, turning on the small radio. A soft tune played, old, slow, and warm. "I used to listen to that when my wife was alive," Mr. Bennet whispered. "She'd hum it while cooking." Emma paused, then began to hum along. Her voice was low and tender. The melody floated in the air, brushing against the quiet walls. Mr. Bennet closed his eyes. His fingers twitched slightly, as if trying to catch the memory. For a moment, the years fell away. Emma noticed the peace on his face. It made her chest ache. She didn't know much about his family. The nurse before her said he had a son, a busy businessman who rarely visited, but she never asked questions. After breakfast, Emma wheeled him to the window. "See the garden?" she asked. "The lilies are opening." He nodded slowly. "My wife planted those." Emma smiled. Then she planted beauty that never left. The old man's eyes grew wet. "You have a kind heart, Emma." She looked away. "I just do my job." But deep inside, she knew it wasn't just work. There was something sacred about caring for someone who had once built and dreamed, who now lived between memories and silence. The clock ticked. The song ended. She began humming again, unaware that her voice carried through the half-open door, down the quiet hallway. Outside, at the edge of the corridor, a tall man in a dark coat stood still. His name was Daniel Bennet. He had arrived unannounced that morning, planning to check on his father's condition. But now, as he heard the young woman's gentle humming and saw his father smiling for the first time in months, he stayed silent. He didn't step forward. Not yet. He just listened. Daniel hadn't planned to linger. He had meetings in the city, phone calls waiting, papers demanding his signature. But something about that sound stopped him. Her voice, it wasn't perfect. It trembled slightly, but it was real. He leaned on the doorframe and watched his father. The old man's eyes were half closed. His lips curved faintly as if tasting an old memory. "Emma," the old man whispered, "that song feels like home." She smiled. "Then I'll sing it every morning." Daniel took a breath, stepped inside. The floor creaked softly. Emma turned. Her face showed surprise, then a touch of nervousness. "Oh, I'm sorry," she said quickly, standing. "I didn't hear anyone." Daniel nodded. "You must be my father's caregiver." "Yes, Emma Collins." He extended his hand. "Daniel Bennet." She hesitated, then shook his hand gently. "Your father is doing well today. He ate a full breakfast." Daniel looked at his father. "You seem better, Dad." The old man's voice was rough. "Because someone finally brings peace into this house." Emma felt her cheeks warm. Daniel's gaze lingered, curious. She was simple in appearance, hair tied neatly, no makeup, but there was something steady in her eyes. He stayed for a while, sitting quietly as Emma read aloud from a book. The light outside dimmed into gold. When she stood to leave, Daniel followed her to the door. "You sing often." "Only when he can't sleep." "Keep doing that," he said. "He hasn't smiled like that in years." She nodded. "Thank you." As she left, Daniel watched her walk through the garden path. The lilies swayed around her feet. Something inside him stirred. Not love, not yet, but recognition of sincerity in a world that rarely offered it. Inside, Mr. Bennet watched his son. "You've been gone too long." Daniel sighed. "I didn't realize how much he needed someone like her." The old man smiled faintly. "So do you." The house fell silent again, but the memory of the song lingered. That evening, the rain began. It fell lightly, brushing the glass in slow rhythm. Emma brought in the old photo album she found in the drawer. "Would you like to look through this, Mr. Bennet?" she asked. He nodded. "It's been years." They turned the pages together. A younger Mr. Bennet smiled from old photographs, standing beside his wife in front of a half-built house. Emma smiled. "You designed this." He nodded proudly. "The Bennet home, my first major project. It's beautiful," she said. She must have been proud. He was silent for a long moment. Then his voice softened. My wife was the reason I worked so hard. I wanted to give her a world she deserved. Emma turned another page. There was a photograph of a boy, maybe 10 years old, holding blueprints. Your son. The old man nodded. Daniel. He wanted to be an architect too. Once. She smiled. He must have made you proud. The old man sighed. He did. But success can steal time. He works too much now. I hardly see him. Emma stayed quiet. She had heard this tone before in many homes, families separated by busy lives and unspoken love. The rain deepened. She closed the album and hummed again. A faint smile returned to the old man's face. You sing like my wife used to, he whispered. She sang when I was too tired to speak. Emma looked at him. Maybe she's listening when I do. He nodded. Maybe she is. In the hallway, Daniel stood again, watching. He had come by unexpectedly to bring some documents, but he couldn't interrupt. He saw his father's hand resting on Emma's, his expression calm. For the first time, Daniel realized he didn't know what peace looked like for his father, until now. Later, when Emma left for the night, Daniel entered the room quietly. Dad, he said, you seem stronger. The old man smiled faintly. Kindness heals more than medicine, son. Daniel sat down, silent. The rain continued outside. In that small moment, he understood his father's loneliness, and the quiet power of the woman who eased it. A week passed. Mr. Bennet's health seemed steadier. His appetite returned. His laughter, rare and fragile, began to surface. One evening, he handed Emma a small envelope. Would you read this for me? She opened it gently. The handwriting was shaky. It was addressed to my son. Emma hesitated. Are you sure? He nodded. I wrote it long ago, but never sent it. Her voice was steady as she read. My dear Daniel, if you ever read this, I want you to know that I am proud of you. I only wish I told you more often. I built houses for families, but forgot to keep my own together. If you ever find time, come home. Not for me, but for yourself. There's still love here. Her voice trembled at the end. Mr. Bennet looked at her quietly. I wrote that after his mother passed. He never saw it. Emma folded the letter carefully. He smiled faintly. Maybe one day. That night, as he dozed, she began to sing softly, the same song his wife loved. The tune filled the room with warmth and memory. Unseen, Daniel stood again at the half-open door. He had arrived earlier than planned, carrying groceries he intended to leave quietly. But the song stopped him once more. He leaned against the frame, eyes on his father, who looked peaceful, not frail. The letter lay on the bedside table, folded neatly. After Emma finished singing, she whispered, Good night, Mr. Bennet, he murmured. Good night, my dear. When she left, Daniel entered the room. He saw the letter, picked it up, and read. His throat tightened. He sat beside his father, holding his hand. I'm here, Dad, he whispered. I should have come sooner. The old man stirred, half awake, smiled faintly. You heard her sing? Daniel nodded. I did. She reminds me of your mother. Daniel looked at the door where Emma had just exited. He didn't know how to explain it, but somehow, her presence had reopened something quiet and true in their home. You're now looking at the Jungfrau in the Swiss Alps, standing at 4,158 meters. It's one of Europe's most iconic snow-covered peaks. From here, you can admire glaciers, valleys, and lakes, an unforgettable panoramic view. Riding the cogwheel train to the top of Europe is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Whether hiking in summer or skiing in winter, this is a paradise for nature lovers. The next morning, the air felt different. The light was dull, the birds silent. Emma entered the room and froze. Mr. Bennet lay still, eyes closed, breathing faint and uneven. Mr. Bennet, she whispered. No response. She checked his pulse, then called the doctor. Her hands trembled slightly. When the doctor arrived, he said softly, He's very weak. Keep him comfortable. Daniel came soon after, rushing through the doorway. What happened? Emma stood back, voice low. He didn't wake up properly. He's been fading since dawn. Daniel knelt beside the bed. Dad, it's me. The old man's lips moved faintly. Daniel. Emma stood quietly, tears in her eyes. She had seen many patients in pain, but never felt this helpless. Should I sing? She asked gently. Daniel looked at her and nodded. Her voice broke at first, then steadied. The song filled the room again. Slow, tender. Mr. Bennet's breathing eased. His face softened. After a while, the doctor whispered, He's resting now. Hours passed in quiet watchfulness. Emma remained at his side, refusing to leave. By evening, the rain began again. The doctor said he might not last through the night. Daniel stayed too, silent. Every so often, he glanced at Emma. Her calm strength filled the space with comfort he couldn't describe. At midnight, Mr. Bennet opened his eyes. His gaze moved between them. "My son," he whispered. "She sang your mother's song." Daniel took his hand. "I know, Dad. Promise me. You'll not live only for work." Daniel's voice cracked. "I promise." The old man smiled faintly. Good. His eyes closed again. Emma kept singing until his breathing slowed and then, quietly, stopped. The song faded into silence. Daniel bowed his head, eyes wet. "He heard you to the end," he said softly. Emma nodded, unable to speak. Outside, the rain stopped. The house was still. Days passed before the funeral. The house felt empty without the old man's quiet laughter. Emma helped arrange the ceremony. She placed fresh lilies beside the casket, the flowers his wife once loved. Daniel watched her, his heart full of gratitude he couldn't express. When the guests left, he approached her. "You gave my father peace," he said quietly. She shook her head. "He gave me purpose." He handed her an envelope. "He left something for you." Inside was a letter in shaky handwriting. "Dear Emma, you reminded me what kindness feels like. I cannot repay that, but I want you to have a piece of the home you made peaceful again. There is a small cottage on the South Hill. It is yours now. Live there, and sing often." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I can't accept this," Daniel said softly. "He wanted you to." She looked toward the trees, the sunlight breaking through the leaves. "He changed my life," she whispered. Daniel nodded. "And you changed his." They stood in silence for a while. Later, as everyone left, Emma stayed behind. She placed her hand on the casket. "Goodbye, Mr. Bennet." The wind carried her voice softly through the garden. The cottage stood quietly on the hill, touched by the soft glow of evening light. The sky was golden, stretching wide above the fields. Wind brushed through the lilies, carrying their scent through the open windows. Emma walked slowly up the path, her steps steady. When she reached the door, she paused, looking at the key in her hand. For a moment, she hesitated. Then she turned it and stepped inside. The air smelled faintly of cedar and dust. The cottage was small but full of warmth. Wooden beams, pale curtains, and sunlight spilling across the floor. Everything felt peaceful, as if waiting for her. On the table near the window sat a framed photograph of Mr. Bennet and his wife, smiling together in their younger years. Beside it lay a folded note in Daniel's handwriting. She opened it gently. "Thank you for giving him joy," it said. Emma held the note to her chest, her eyes wet. She looked around the room again, taking in every detail. This was her new home, a gift born from kindness and gratitude. She opened the windows. The evening breeze entered softly. Birds sang in the distance. A car pulled up outside. She stepped out, smiling faintly as Daniel approached, carrying a small wooden box. "Housewarming gift," he said quietly. Emma tilted her head, curious. "You didn't have to." He smiled. "It's not from me. My father left this with his will." She opened the box carefully. Inside was a small music box carved with lilies. She turned the key. The familiar tune began to play. The same song she had sung for Mr. Bennet. The melody floated through the room, gentle and warm. Emma smiled through her tears. "He remembered." Daniel nodded. "He said your voice brought back my mother's memory. He wanted you to keep the song." She placed the music box on the table beside the photograph. The tune filled the quiet air, wrapping the room in calmness. Daniel looked around the cottage. "He would have loved this view," he said softly. "He already does," Emma replied, her voice steady. They stood together in silence, listening to the music until it faded. When Daniel left, she followed him to the gate. The sky had turned orange and pink. The fields shimmered gently under the light. "Will you be all right here?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "I think this is where I was meant to be." He nodded. "I'll visit sometimes. My father would want that." She smiled. "You'll always be welcome." Daniel gave a small wave, then drove away down the narrow road. His car disappeared beyond the trees. Emma turned back to the cottage. She could still hear the faint echo of the song. She walked to the window and looked out at the lilies swaying in the wind. She began to hum softly, her voice blending with the evening air. "Rest well, Mr. Bennet," she whispered. "Thank you." The sun dipped behind the hill. The world grew quiet again. Inside the cottage, the music box played its final notes. The sound lingered, tender and slow. until it faded into silence. And in that silence, Emma smiled. She finally felt home.